Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I am Brother Minister Cepeda. I am the founder and the operator of Tree of Life Outreach, which is a holistic ministry designed to nourish your mind, your body, and your spirit. I nourish these three things, or assist you guys in the nourishment and upkeep of these three things by making sure there's a proper balance, and the strategies and techniques and tactics that I utilize to achieve this goal is philosophical consultations, ISSA certified fitness training, and clean heart spiritual teachings and practices. So visit the website at treeoflifeoutreach.com. Be inspired by the story. If the particular story doesn't vibe well with you and your walk of life, fair play to you. Perhaps you know someone who could benefit from it, because at the end of the day, it's just about inspiration regardless to the actual story itself. For those of you who can relate to it a little bit closer, be sure to put a double emphasis on passing it around, as well as the information. My contact information is up there as well. So today I'm going to do a follow-up video on a video that I made called proportionate quads, proportionate leg, proportionate and balanced legs. So as previously stated, it's a holistic ministry. So I've been doing certified fitness training basically since I got my first certificate in 1988. I actually started in 1985. So I've been doing it since then, injury-free. Haven't had one single client get injured over all those hundreds and hundreds of clients that I've trained over those period of decades. So having said that, I do not have all the answers. Let me repeat, I do not have all the answers. But the answers that I do have are tried, tested, proven, and refined, and they stood the test of times. For the answers that I don't have, I'm always looking to improve, so I'm constantly researching, constantly adding things in as I deem fit, as the science proved that's probably the best thing to do, and I'm also always letting things go that may be a bit outdated. At the end of the day, it's kind of like numbers with regards to the approach that I take, in that 2 is 2 is going to always be 4. It's never going to be outdated. It's always been 4. It's always going to be 4, and that's the foundation of the training that I utilize, which is good old-fashioned bodybuilding techniques, good old-fashioned bodybuilding weight training. Doesn't matter if I'm training somebody for sports-specific training. I've trained golfers, I've trained boxers, I've trained tennis players, gymnastics, beginners and intermediate level gymnastic competitors. So you name it. Although their training may vary, and certainly does vary depending on the sports and the specific outcome they're trying to achieve within that sport, the template is still founded on good old-fashioned bodybuilding exercises. This is the 2 + 2 = 4 that never changes. Bodybuilding exercises are not just for bodybuilders. They're for anybody who wants to build their body. So it works. It doesn't matter what you're into, what your goal is. Good old-fashioned bodybuilding exercise works. Obviously, you tweak something, you add something in. You don't do with this guy what you would do with that guy, with this girl what you would do with that girl. You cater a routine that's based on them, but at the forefront, the template of my personal program that I use for myself and that I've used for my clients over all these decades, even though it's continued to evolve, even though it's continued to morph and to change, that's always going to be that's going to be the foundation of it all. Okay, so I just wanted to say that if you guys have any questions about me, or to give you guys a little bit more comfortability with the information that I'm providing you guys, as well as to obtain a little bit more cachet with you guys, do visit the treeoflifeoutreach.com, read over the bio, get some more information about me and the services. But stroll down once you read the bio and click on the services, at the end of the services, there'll be a button that will allow you to click on the physical fitness training, and the nutritional aspect. That includes the nutritional aspect, and that's the training, the physical training arm of the ministry. That will give you guys some information about me, when I started, how long I've been doing it, a few testimonials up there, a lot of general information, as well as my own competitive history in bodybuilding as well. So I compete all natural. Although it's been a few years since I've been on stage, I'm looking forward to get back up there and make some more noise. And I'm looking forward to doing so as close to the immediate future as possible. But my credentials are up there. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, give me a call, shoot me a text, email, or you have it, okay? So the video that I did, again, I just kind of touched on the keys to building big and proportionate legs, strong and proportionate legs. Having said that, in all my years of competition, I can't think of one, not a single one, where I was the guy who had the biggest legs on stage. I can't think of a single one. But what I can tell you is that I was always amongst the very, very top of those who had the best legs in the show. Kind of Frank Zane-ish. You guys familiar with Frank Zane, who also happens to be my greatest bodybuilder of all time. Not huge legs, especially not huge leg by comparison to his competitors, but they fit his body. They fit his body well, and they were shredded and very well developed. And so, not having the biggest legs on stage, I've always needed to have that extra edge with regards to aesthetics and the overall composition of my legs, and I've always been pretty successful at doing that. So, and again, in the previous video, I just put out some quad exercises, I put out some hamstring exercises, and based on the fact that my clients pay for a lot of the more detailed information, I have to be careful about not to spill the beans, because again, they pay their hard-earned money to get some of the insights that is not just on the surface. So as best that I can with regards to on the surface information that if you apply it, it will still put you light years ahead of the person who does not do it from as I see it. Obviously, there's other personal routines out there, other personal trainers who get incredible results with the routines that they use, and they deserve all the credit in the world for that. I can only speak to the results that I get from having done my routine on myself, experimenting with myself, training clients over the years, and having gone through an extended phase of what's in the books, and what the guy in the gym said, and what sounded good, what made me sweat, what looked good, and having spent time investigating all that stuff, only to find out, man, I was sweating and it felt good and it burned and everything, but when you got down to the nitty gritty of the actual results, they were pretty much non-existent, or at the best case scenario, they were just average. So again, just speaking for myself, if you utilize my experience, if you utilize these strategies, these techniques, and these exercises, you cannot go wrong. As a matter of fact, it will give you a large advantage on just the average guy who's in there lifting and trying to get results, and who may actually even be getting results. You'll still be light years ahead of them, because let's face it, most people in the gym are not training to be bodybuilders or swimsuit competitors. They just want to look good. They want to look their absolute best. They want to feel good. They want to be able to go to the beach and show off their hard work. So for just that frame right there, this general information, what I refer to as on the surface information, if you utilize it and you utilize it correctly, it'll put you light years ahead of those guys, and you don't have to be seeking to be a competitor. You just want to look your absolute best and show off your hard-earned results. I'm going to try to turn this volume up here, guys. So prior with me, actually I'm going to try to turn this lighting up. There we go. So yeah, this is what it's all about, guys. So what I decided to do was follow that up with a bit more in depth, as best I could, on the surface information with regards to developing strong and proportionate legs. So I decided that I'd rank my best exercises for this. Now, even though I cannot give you guys the beneath the surface information on these topics, I am looking forward to getting my camera. Looking forward to learning how to film from a camera that I have, that's on the tripod that I can actually set up and then upload it through my computer here. I haven't figured out how to do that just yet, but it is on the top of the list. As a matter of fact, I called around today, and I'm waiting for someone to give me a appointment for, according to them, perhaps as early as this weekend. So look forward to that. So I would merge that with being able to give you guys the exercises, and then film myself actually performing these exercises and doing a real, either a walkthrough type of workout and or the nitty gritty workouts, probably both. So you guys can benefit from seeing the right form, my rest periods, my right lifting techniques, right form, proper breathing, things of that nature. So look forward to that, because I'm certainly looking forward to getting that information out to you guys. My number one, but here's a spoiler alert first. Spoiler alert. There's no barbell squats on this. There's no barbell squats that are amongst my favorite leg building exercises. It's been my experience that you can build these incredible legs, strong, thick, extremely developed, well-proportionate legs, and it goes for the ladies. Obviously, you don't want big man-sized legs, but you do want your legs to be appropriate for your body type. You don't want to have legs that's too big or legs that's too small. So these exercises are universal with regards to the gender. They encompass both male and female, so they could be used for you guys. And then you just have to work with, adjusting getting the appropriate weight. And then, as you guys know, if you watch the other video, I'm a huge fan of intensity, frequency, duration, the amount of time you actually are in the gym, the amount of time that you actually hit that muscle group, intensity, doing that, and then exercise sequencing. So you get better results if you put this exercise before that exercise, and put this exercise over there, and then let that be the last exercise, depending on what it is that you're trying to achieve with regard to that particular muscle group. So if you're doing your arms, if you're doing your back, you can get better results if you say, well, what am I trying to do with my back today? Oh, I'm trying to work on my V-taper, or I'm trying to work on my thickness, or I'm trying to work on my cuts, more separation in my rhomboid area. So then you're going to benefit by putting this exercise first, and that exercise third, and then this exercise second, and then that exercise sixth, and then coming back and putting this exercise in there. If you sequence those they can be sequenced in a very in a specific way where you can increase your results. And this is something I've learned over 40 years of actually training, and just paying attention and basically noting everything that works with myself and my clients. So I'm a huge fan of sequencing as well. Having said that, these exercises here, I'm just going to lay them out 1 through 4, and then if you have any questions about what's the better sequence, how long, how often, things of that nature, you can give me a call. My information is on the treelifeoutreach.com website. You can also text me, send me an email. You can leave a comment, and as best I can, I will certainly love to provide that information for you. So, but there's no barbell squats on here. Reason being, again, number one, you can create the legs that you want, thick, strong, appropriate, proportionate, well developed, and all that you would hope your legs to be, without the barbell squats. Barbell, that's number one. Barbell squats I've also found to be, particularly over a long period of time, harmful, potentially harmful and discomforting for the back. And that's even if one does not sustain an injury. Uh, my experience has been those guys and girls who have squatted for, you know, a year, a couple years in a row, eventually they start to develop just stiffness in their lower back. They have to spend some extra time stretching and things of that nature, where before they begin the squats, they didn't have to do that. Other guys will swear by the squat, and if that's what's worked for them, then rightfully so. You know, a big shout out to them for putting forth what works for them. But I found, for me, I found that you can get just as good, if not even better, results void of the barbell squat and void of the potential of having to deal with any lower back and or neck and shoulder pain, which is also something that people who've been squatting for a while, particularly those who squat often and who squat heavy, but even those who don't squat all that heavy, but they just use that, there's a likelihood that they that they're putting themselves at risk for developing that, if not in the immediate future, then somewhere down the line for them. So that's the spoiler alert. My number one favorite exercise for building those quads, we're going to focus on the quads at first, is a good old-fashioned leg squat. I like to do just a standard foot placement, and always remember that the higher you go on that leg press, the more you're going to incorporate your hamstring, which can be good. Again, we talk about sequencing. So if you're talking about doing something for your hamstrings post that or supersetting with that, then that's the foot placement you want to do, because it's already going to kind of target your hamstrings a little bit better, and then you're already going to hit them babies. So if you're trying to get big, you're trying to build your hamstring, or you're trying to shred them, it's going to depend on how you want to sequence those two exercises. So, but I typically go with regular foot placement, middle of the platform, shoulder width apart, and toes straight forward. Okay? Now I do occasionally use different foot placement, wider, toes, ankles in or heels in a little bit and toes out. And I don't think anyone, I see it done all the time. And again, some people swear by it, but I never recommend going with the toes pointed in. So either toes out just for a switch up, and then maybe target some different muscle fibers to kind of fill in the blanks a little bit. Fine, here and there. But as a general rule, and then the top, if you want to kind of target your hamstrings, you want to put a little bit more extra work into your hamstrings, or there's something specific you're trying to get out of your hamstring results. Typically, right in the middle of the platform, shoulder width, toes straight forward. That's the width, and I don't go all the way into the pocket. I see some guys that swear by it, and again, props to them if that's what works for them. I go just a tad bit, having the quad go just a tad bit past parallel. So when the quad comes down and it's even, just a tad bit, maybe 3-5 inches beneath it being straight up, and just go back a little bit more and then push that baby out. That's the depth that I work. I found that the going any lower just kind of takes the weight off your actual quads and kind of puts it onto your hips a little bit and into your glutes a little bit, which again, we're talking about sequencing. It's something that you want to do and you can do if you have a strategic game plan and you're trying to get something else out of the deal. Maybe you feel like your hips need to be improved, or maybe you feel like you just want to pre-exhaust this muscle to take it over there because you're looking to shred this muscle, or perhaps work on some tie-offs. You got a different exercise plan pre or post that exercise, and it can be done. But as a general rule of thumb, if you don't have a specific game plan for it and you just want to target your quads, then that's the aforestated position, middle of the platform, shoulder width, and toes straight forward. That's my number one recommendation for that. The other one is, even though I said there's no barbell squats, there is a hack squat. I have, as an aside, I have a 12-week-old puppy over there, so you may hear him, crying. He's going through his crate training. So I would ask in advance that you guys will pardon me if that's what you guys hear. But there is a hack. So there is a hack squat. No barbell squats, but there's a hack squat. And Hack squat, same thing, same depth, same foot placement, and this can really target your quads. You can zero in on it if you face the opposite way, where your head is facing the pad. Then you can target your glutes a little more, and you can target your hams a little more and still hit that quad. But if you just want to zero in on them quads, face forward and get the same depth, just a little bit past parallel, and then squeeze out at the top, obviously without locking your knees out. The third exercise, and this is kind of like one of my favorites. It's kind of like number one, but I never do it at the beginning. I never do them at the beginning of my routine, so it's hard for me to put it at number one. But that's walking lunges. Again, it's gonna hit those quads for you. It's gonna actually touch on your calves. It's gonna basically hit your whole lower leg. It's gonna zero in on them quads for you, but it's also gonna touch on your hamstrings a little bit. It's gonna touch on your gluteus maximus a little bit. It's gonna touch on those calves a little bit, while at the same time really burning and building and defining those quads for you. Now, those are the top three, and I'm going to do the top three in hamstrings and the top two or three in my top two or three exercises in calf building as well. Now, the only aside is when it comes to those top three in the quad department, I do rotate in the extensions. I do rotate those in. They're kind of my filling the gap go-to, depending on if this guy's working on this with his quads, and I may sequence those hamstrings pre or post, or both pre and post, and have the toes out straight forward or turned in slightly. On the extension, you can turn your toes in a little bit slightly, hit different muscle groups from your teardrop to your sweep to your cut right down the middle. So all of these things are important depending on what you're trying to get out of your quad, or what are you trying to get out of your quad exercise that particular day. That's going to determine the toe placement that you want to have, okay? So that's actually 4, given that those are my top 3: leg press, hack squat, walking lunges, and with the 4th always being thrown in there as a fill in the blanks, the leg extensions. Now for building those hams, again, we're not just talking about quads, we're talking about the entire leg, the entire lower body. For quads, my favorite is the lying leg curl. This is my favorite. I'm going to go relatively heavy on it, although I'm not a fan of heavy weights by any stretch of the imagination, but relatively heavy given the totality of the amount of weights that I'm using as a whole. So I like the lying leg curls, or horizontal leg curl. Lie on your stomach, crank them babies out, same width, about shoulder width apart, feet straight. As a caveat, depending on what you're trying to get, if you want to zero in, if you're going for a bodybuilding type of style, or just a beach style with just a little bit of oomph to it, then you can do a couple sets with your thighs close all the way in together, and that's going to hit your outer hammies and your outer glutes a little bit. Regular width's going to hit all 3, outer, inner, and middle. And then if you go out with your toes out a little bit, careful with your knees, and then come up, then you can really hit your the inner part of your hamstring. So your hams look really sliced and diced, even that much more when you depending on how lean you get. Obviously, that's kind of a trick that I use to kind of get an edge on somebody who's really serious about not just building, but also sculpting and toning and working on things like tie-offs and separation and things of that nature, muscle separation and muscle tie-offs. So that's a little bit of a tidbit there. Hope my clients aren't too, they should be okay with that, because these are a lot of different tricks that they do in the gym, and when I'm training them, people are always somewhat surprised. I've never seen that before, and come up and ask me, and I have to be real careful because my clients are paying for that inside edge, okay? Also, I like to do the seating leg curl. This is one of my favorite. Crank them babies in. This is the one where you're sitting upright, pulling them babies underneath you. Very similar to the lying hack squat, where you're lying on your tummy, except you're sitting up. It adds a different dimension. You can really hit your quad. You can really hit your glutes a lot more with this baby. And the same thing goes. Some of them have the independent leg holders where you can't do this, but if it's just a straight bar, then you can go toes out a little bit, toes straight forward, which is the primary one that I use and recommend for the most part, because it's going to hit the whole of your glutes and your hamstrings. And then you can go toes in a little bit, but careful with your knees, just to hit a little bit more of those outside of the glutes and the hamstrings, okay? We have the standing leg curl. This is one of my all-time favorites. Again, this could easily be number one, except I never start with it because you can't really go heavy on these, and you need that energy and that strength for the stuff that you can go a bit heavier on. So the standing leg curls, you guys are familiar with it. You're standing upright. You're doing one standing leg curl. You're pulling back towards your glute while you stand there. So that's one of my all-time favorite as well. You crank them babies out. You can't miss. When it comes to the calves, my number one favorite is the leg press. You can get in that baby. You can put tons of weight on there. And again, relatively heavy compared to the other stuff that you weights that you may be using. And with this, I intentionally go all different placement of my toes on the bottom of the platform. Obviously, toes all the way out, going up to the tip of my toes. Toes out with my toe. Okay, toes out. Leg spread, toes out, going up to my pinky toes, then legs out, toes forward. And then right there in the regular width, shoulder width, legs shoulder width, toes straight, cranking them babies. And then legs shoulder width, toes in. And again, legs shoulder width, toes out. And then right in the middle of the bottom of the platform with everything pushed in tight, thighs, knees, ankle, toes are touching right there, and crank them babies out like that. So that's my number one absolute favorite for the calves, is on the leg press. The second one is going to be the seated leg curl. Not really a huge fan of any of the others outside of the leg press, but I do them all because there's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of different muscle fibers in your body. Anytime you change angles, change position, change the way, the style, the reach, or anything of that nature, you're incorporating slightly different muscle fibers, and this is what's going to make the difference if by chance you are competing or you just want to have an advantage on the person at the beach or whatnot. It's the little details that's going to make the difference. It's going to make the difference between two girls being on stage or at the beach, and they both got the same body fat. They are shredded. They got both are equal as far as the chest size, the arm sizes, abs are shredded. Everything is definitely on par with each other, and you just have to nitpick. Well, you're going to clearly realize, you don't have to nitpick. You can clearly see that even though all this other stuff is even, she clearly looks like she got something else going on with her. She's got a little cut here, a little shred there. The muscles seem to be a little bit more sculpted here. These are the tricks that give you that added advantage if things are just that close and you need to start nitpicking to find out who has an advantage. This will do it for you, okay? So the final leg one is the seated leg curl, or I think I said the seated calf raise. The standing barbell. The standing barbell. I left that one out. That's my second favorite. Again, I'm not really a fan of that barbell because you have to put that weight on your back, but it's a good way to load your quad, load up some weight for your quads, and hit all those different angles as previously mentioned on the leg press. Toes wide, toes out, legs wide, going up the pinky toes. Legs a bit wide, toes straight forward, going up on your pinkies. A little bit closer, mid-range, where your legs are even with your shoulders. Toes are straight forward, then toes are out, then toes are in slightly, and then toes and hips, thighs, knees, and all together, and you can pump out right there. So that's a high quality one, and actually in my top three, even though by comparison I'm not a big fan of it. And then you can get all your tie-offs and build some incredible calves that way. And then last but not least is the seated calf raise, which I'm not a huge fan of by any extent. It's one that I have to kind of will myself to do because it's just not one of my favorites. It's typically uncomfortable when you have to have that thing across your leg, and you're always adjusting, having to adjust your toes and things like that with that weight being right there on your leg. So it's not one of my favorites, but it is to be used. It is not to be ignored, and it does have an extraordinary amount of benefits for you. Depending on what kind of platform is there, you typically just have to go about shoulder width, toes straight forward and crank out. That's the traditional move. That's the most common move. But if the platform allows, then try and experiment, as previously stated, with the leg press, using the leg press for calves raise, and then the stand-up barbell calf raises off the plates lying there on the floor that you put there. Try to experiment with your foot placement on there and your leg placement on there for an added advantage, and try those out. Again, my information, my credentials are on the website. Scroll through, read the bio, scroll through the service. At the end of the services, there'll be a link for you to click and take you to the fitness arm of the ministry. And my credentials and things of that nature is there. My contact information there as well. Hey, listen, thanks for tuning in, guys. Check out some of the other videos, like, subscribe, leave a comment, and know that we have to have a balance in all of this stuff. You can't just be shredded, but then your mind is not where it needs to be. You can't have your mind focus on something, but you have a poor spirit. Your spirit is suffering, and that's going to eventually cause your mind to wander, or it's going to affect your mind to the point to where you're no longer able to do the things that your mind is focused on. You're not able to reach that highest pinnacle, even though you're focused on it. You have a corrupt spirit, or your spirit is out of balance. You've neglected your spirit. And so it's going to affect your mind, it's going to affect your body. And all these things are so interrelated and interdependent upon one another. We have to find that balance, okay? So I am Brother Minister Cepeda. I do not know all of y'all, but I do love all of y'all. That is as real could get. Here's a motto and a mantra that I actually live by each and every day of my life. If you're feeling bad, and everyone has had those moments, if you're feeling bad, go make somebody else feel good, and you'll feel better instantaneously. I guarantee it. Now, if you're already feeling good and you go make somebody who's feeling bad feel good, then you'll go from feeling good to feeling phenomenal. That's just the way this thing works, guys. That's just the way it works. So I thanks for tuning in, guys. Have an incredible day. Stay blessed, because y'all are blessed, and keep pushing to find that balance. We are designed to be holistic in our existence. We're not designed to be partial and fall off the edge in this way, or go real hard over there and then let the other areas become out of balance. So find that, take a holistic and organic approach, and achieve your dreams. It's there waiting on you. You don't have to go searching for it, but it is waiting on you to take some step towards it so that it can come rushing your way. Okay, guys, I love y'all. Thanks again. Peace. Holla back.